Will Bruno Fernandes stay or is he likely to leave? Conversations are beginning to re-emerge now. People are suggesting that Bruno Fernandes is not a priority for INEOS just because in a report that was released by a credible news source, it suggested that Bruno's contract talks are not a priority now for Manchester United. Does that mean he is surplus to requirements? Well, I'm here to array your fears. My name is Webb. This is the United Hotspot. Like, share, and subscribe as I have taken time to make calls, text, research, and get to know exactly what's going on with Bruno. Because you do recall, at some point he looked unhappy until he had a special meeting with INEOS and they assured him that he's an important part of Manchester United and the project they're building. Now, here's the thing, guys. Bruno's contract runs out in 2026 at least. There is an option then of extending it by a further year to 2027. So if we go by the bare minimum, he still has got 2 years left on his contract. Plus, if we assume they can trigger the third year clause in his contract, those are 3 years. Honestly, he cannot be a big priority now. Talks with him about a new contract cannot be a big priority now for INEOS when we are trying to sell players, bring in money, and sign so many players in so many departments. So, guys, the reason why they say his talks with him are not a priority now is not because he's not an important player. It's because there are things that are more important for Manchester United to deal with now before we go into talking to players who are here, who we know have got contracts going on. In fact, INEOS made it clear that their plan is not to speak to anyone and discuss contracts except for those whose contracts are coming to an end that need to stay, or players like the young Kobis, the Garnachos, who have not so good contracts, but they are now important part of the senior team. So they need to convince them that they are important by handing them new contracts that are longer and better. Because imagine Kobe was earning £20,000 per week, Garnacho about £40,000 per week. We know that they are important parts of the team. They deserve more. So those are the players they can talk to, but even that is not happening. Now, right now, the priority is to bring in players to go into the market, attack it, and boost the squad. That's the priority for INEOS. So your fears about Bruno Fernandes, I have seen people starting to shout, well, INEOS, again, we're almost going back into the INEOS out state. They don't rate Bruno and what. The guy has got 2 years left and an option of a further year. So I don't think, whereas we know he would want to have new terms and more and stuff, it's not the most important thing now, even when the Euros are going on. So I needed for you for that to be clear. But if ever, really, and for any reason, if INEOS feel probably he's not. I mean, Bruno is an important part of what we are trying to do now, especially knowing that Casemiro is leaving. If there are two players that could teach something to the young Kobe Maino, it is Bruno and Casemiro. We saw Bruno dropping passes for fun for Portugal against Czechia. I tell you, Bruno's is, and even you see it, that is so important in terms of helping the young players to improve, the best players, the potentially best players we have at the team in the Cobbies. So if we are losing Casemiro, it wouldn't make sense for us to lose Bruno Fernandes immediately, unless it is for, like I said before, an undeniable amount, a figure that you cannot say no to, that you listen. But the reality is Bruno is an important part of the rebuild because of his experience, because of what there's so many young players, there's so many new players we are likely to bring in can learn from him. So he's certainly a priority for them. But for me, most importantly, he is the best bet now for Kobe to learn from, given that Casemiro is leaving. Even in Kobe's own admission, he has learned a lot from him. When he was speaking in that press conference before the Denmark game, he was talking about Bruno and what he has learned from him. A lot of things he has learned from him and Casemiro. So they cannot both live at the same time unless we do not have direction to our project. So the fears for me do not hold a lot of water. There is no reason for you guys to come out there and now start attacking and and talking and start attacking INEOS again, because these talks had re-emerged. I think that really, hypothetically, I should say, Bruno still has 3 years left on his contract. With the inclusion of the 1 year extension that could be triggered. Honestly, would you rush to go into talks for a new contract with such a player when you've got midfielders to sign competing with Liverpool, Arsenal, Manchester City? You've got central defenders to sign, you're competing with Real Madrid, Liverpool, and name them. You've got strikers to sign, you're competing with AC Milan, with Arsenal, with Liverpool. No, you want to take your priorities right, put them right, and go for the right players at the right time. And that's what INEOS is trying to do. Now, away from the Bruno talk, talking about the situation with the players we're trying to bring in, of course, we know that the bid for Branthwaite was rejected, but there is plans again for Man United to go back and bid for him again. Whereas they are also still monitoring the situation with Mark Guehi, according to reports that are coming in, who I think for me would be a better option for Man United, honestly. Then also Joshua Zirkzee, I think is the top. He should be the next bid Man United will take in officially. United is putting together a bid for Joshua Zirkzee. They have inquired about him. He has got a buyout clause for any team that's not Bayern. The buyout clause is about £34 million, really. That should be pocket change for Manchester United. That's, I think, within the amount that Manchester United should be willing to part with for a backup striker. So I believe, I think that bid will go in probably for close of business today. We are still here. We'll be monitoring it. So there is that. But then Fabrizio confirmed that Man United are now being serious and focusing on which midfielders to bring in. Is it Joao Neves? Is it Fofana? Is it Onana or someone else? So those are still being looked at now. We are getting to that stage now. So in terms of progress, they are working on things. The idea is to make early deals in this summer so that Eric Ten Hag has no excuse. He has got all the time to work with these players. Now, when it comes to the contract of Eric Ten Hag, it's still dragging, I should say. Eric Ten Hag still does, I think, is yet to come down from the ill treatment, if you would call it, that he received from INEOS. So he's taking the process slow. But I think eventually he would want to manage at Man United. I think it's a matter of time that he will come out to decide whether he will accept the terms, because I don't think he's going to corner INEOS into, whatever he wants, because the reality is, whereas they zeroed down on him, he was never their first priority. It was because probably they failed to get a better option, or because the fans were up in arms against INEOS backing him. So he might be, if he's not willing to take some of the terms they give him, he might finish his 1 year and they part ways with him. But the contract talks between him and INEOS are still going on. So that's very important. Kobe Maino too is set to sign a new contract. I think the talks have been going on for a while. He's expected that his wages could be tripled from 20,000 to something close to 60 or even 70 or 80,000 pounds per week. So his would be a longer contract. So those talks, I think, were already started. They were initiated way back before even the season ended. So we expect that perhaps after the Euros, we'll be hearing confirmation that Kobe will have signed a new contract with Manchester United. So there are no issues when it comes to Kobe and his contract. So that's a bit of where we are right now. But we need to monitor the situation with Branthwaite and the holding midfielders that Manchester United is trying to go for. In terms of the departures, I think by now, INEOS have decided which players should be leaving. It's a matter of them returning either from the Euros or the Copa America, wherever they could be, from holiday, so that they make the announcement known. For them now, the focus is on getting the replacements for these players. Now, people had started, I think, beginning to get disquiets about the whole INEOS process, because many at a time like this for Man United, we are always linked with so many players. I mean, and this is inevitable because we are Manchester United. We are the biggest football club in the world. Anyone who wants to sell a player, an agent, will try to find ways of, conjuring up something to make it look like their player is important and stuff, give the club thoughts. But here's the thing. I think I feel like we've been consistent with players we've been linked with. And you look at a player like Branthwaite, these are players we've known for a long time. And I feel like there might not be surprises this time. I think INEOS seem to know which players they want to go for, which I believe is a good thing. It seems then that shows you that they know the profiles of which players they want to go for. And they seem to be willing to insist on those players and try to go for them because they have put together a pool that is affordable. The expensive ones that perhaps have a lot of competition, and maybe the players might turn us down, or maybe they're too expensive and INEOS are saying if they're not cutting down, we'll leave them. But there are also affordable options that they have got in place. And I will tell you, we might not be seeing any surprises when it comes to this transfer window. I think for me, it's not going to be one of those where we are linked with so many diverging players, because I've been seeing people saying, again, United is linked to everyone. I feel like this time around the pool is contained. And it's a good thing because it shows a proper direction in terms of where we want to go. We're not all over the place that we jump onto anyone who is available. Because right now it would be jumping onto this Napoli guy who wants away, the Georgian, with whose name is so difficult to pronounce, Kvaratskhelia or something. So we would be jumping on him because he's saying he wants to leave Napoli. But of course, he wants to join a Champions League team. But I'm sure if United went for him, he would listen. So I think there seems to be a proper direction, which for me gives me a bit of trust, a bit of more trust in the project and what INEOS are trying to do, that we know which players we want to go for and we are stuck on them. For me, that's very important. It's a good sign because it's gone are the days when we are linked to nearly everyone. Everyone is linked to Manchester United. That causes disorganization, the lack of direction, shows a lack of direction, that you're just all over the place. So if you look at the things that INEOS have improved, you might study the speculations and the talk in this transfer window, and they will show you that clearly INEOS have just changed a few things about the club, which is a good thing to see. So that's where we are right now. So I just wanted to speak to your fears that Bruno Fernandes, again, we are back where we were, that Bruno may not be given a new contract and stuff. No, it's just that it is not the priority now. He has got basically about 3 years left on his contract. There is time for us to go into talks with him. And INEOS still leave the door open. Probably if they get crazy money and somehow they fail to work out a thing with him, maybe they could let go of him. But it's early days for us to start worrying about Bruno and his contract. My name is Webb. This is the Mental Sport. Like, share, and subscribe as we do wait for what's coming in this transfer window.